Okay. Is this working? Are we live? Just gonna make sure people are on. Okay, it looks like people are watching, so I'm just gonna get started. Welcome to Facebook Live, everyone. I'm gonna be covering photography tips for all of you today, to either be taking photos yourself or to share with your clients some tips for taking photos of property yourself, whether it be with a camera or an iPhone. So I know that most of you are probably going to be taking these photos with your iPhone. So I have a couple of tips based on taking them with your phone. I guess whether it be a camera or a phone, if you have a tripod, I would definitely recommend using that. That's going to hold the camera the steadiest, obviously better than holding it with your hand. If you have a phone, I would hold it, landscape instead of portrait. That's going to capture, obviously, most of the room. That's also best for editing wise. The only time I would suggest using, portrait and holding it this way is if you're taking a picture of, say, a half bath or, a smaller room. That's the only time I would suggest holding the camera this way. I would suggest always holding it landscape mode while taking those photos. If you have an iPhone, maybe try turning off the live photos. I mean, I guess it won't really matter when you're grabbing them and going in to edit them, but might just make it easier for you. I wouldn't suggest, experimenting with your portrait mode or wide angle lenses right now. I think keep it simple. Sometimes wide angle lenses in portrait mode can distort a room. So I wouldn't suggest experimenting with that right now. Now is probably not the time for that. When taking your photos indoors, I would open up the shades of the room, let all the natural light in as possible. When possible, use natural light to your advantage. If you have windows on one side of your room, I would balance off the light with maybe a lamp or something on the other side of the room so that you're not getting blown out with light. Photograph rooms from doorways, corners, things like that. It makes the room seem bigger. And I would open up doors in between rooms. It creates more space, down a hallway, open up those doors to create some space. Photograph from eye level or sometimes even higher. That's the best angle of a room. It's going to make it seem bigger. And obviously, if you can clean up, reduce clutter, anything like that, have your sellers clean things up before taking those photos. When you get outdoors to take photos of the house outside, the time of the day is going to matter. It's going to differ for each house. So I wouldn't suggest taking photos in the middle of the day. The sun's, right and high in the sky. I would avoid that. I would try with the sun behind the house, and maybe try turning the lights on in the house. A lot of times the editing is going to play a big role in the outside of the house, but definitely avoid the middle of the day. I'm here to help with any editing that you have, but I think, there are some great programs out there to help you edit these photos on your own if you're willing to try that. I personally use Lightroom and Photoshop. I know that these programs cost money, so I did some research to find some free photo programs for you guys. If you have a PC, I found PhotoPass Pro is a free program. Around with that because I don't have a PC. I found a couple web-based programs where you can upload photos and edit them there. PEA.com is a free program. Pixlr, which is PIXLR.com, is a free program. And paint.net is also a free program. Pixlr, I watched a video about, and it also has a very similar interface to Photoshop. It's very similar to Photoshop. And Paint.net is actually like the old version of Paint, you know, on your old Windows. So it has very basic versions to do, you know, brighten up a photo, anything like that. So I figured now I would probably share my screen with you, and I'm gonna bring in a photo that Lauren O'Brien actually just sent me that her seller took of a property, and I'm gonna show you just basic editing of what I would do. So I'm just gonna set this up. Let's see if we're on here. Okay, so this photo was taken by Lauren O'Brien's seller. This is Photoshop. Obviously, not everyone is able to use Photoshop, but I'm just going to show you the very basics of what I would do. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to adjust the brightness a bit. Just going to brighten it up a little bit. Anything that you do, I wouldn't go crazy. I wouldn't brighten something up too much. If you adjust brightness and contrast too much, that's where you get a photo that looks too grainy and pixelated. So I wouldn't, you know, drag it up too much. So I'm going to leave it about here. I'm going to go in, and the photo looks a little bit yellow. So I'm going to adjust the color balance. So when things look yellow, that happens a lot inside just from, you know, lights inside and not using natural light. So if you just take away some yellow and add a little bit of blue, that usually will fix the problem. If you notice it looks a little red, you can add a little bit more blue, take away some red. So it's just about finding the balance. Sometimes you can use auto settings. A lot of these programs will have auto settings that can help you find the same balance there. I'm going to show you the before and after of our color balance. It's not a huge difference. It's just a little less yellow. And then I'm just going to go in and adjust the shadows and highlights. So Photoshop does this thing where it automatically will adjust, but I'm just going to bring that down a little bit. Bring the highlights down. Oh, okay, so I'm going to show you the before and the after. Not a huge difference. Her sellers did a great job of taking this photo, but just small differences to help you edit. You guys can send me photos if you need help editing. I posted the photography tips handout already in Facebook discussions. You can feel free to share this with your sellers if they need help taking these photographs, and share these tips with them. And if you need help with anything, you can reach out to me. My email is at the bottom of the handout. All right, thanks everyone.